yes, here we go. It is the P.M.P. It is the P.M.P. of a derby day that, let's be honest, surely now, later, better late than never, seals the title for Celtic. As always on the P.M.P., I'm joined by a very smiley Terry Robb. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Bhoycie. It's good to have you back. Just, Bhoycie, can you just give me one wee quick second? Can you give me 1 second there? Sorry, I thought there was somebody coming there, but they're not. Sorry.
No, I can't see it. No. You've just made the dog bark there. He thought you were serious. But yes, Bobo.
I thought the Rangers were coming, but they're not.
Yeah, no, totally, mate. No, I mean it's one of those days where it should be a day of joy because at the end of the day, Celtic, yes, we think that the league should have been more comfortable than it was. I thought today's game, Whoopi has nailed it in the comments. He thought exactly like I did. I thought today was a microcosm, good word that he used, regular viewer, Whoopi. He says a microcosm of what this season has been. And I think that's probably true. But at the end of the day, that's why the most qualified person at Celtic right now, if you take the signings away, and our recruitment drive in the last 12 months was getting Brendan Rodgers. And Brendan Rodgers has got the results against these title rivals this year. It's an astonishing record that he has against them overall. But even this year, you look at, if you want to say his record before was based on a nothing opposition, well, this year, everyone seems to be in agreement that it's a different challenge he's got this time. It's 3 wins from 4 in the league and a draw away from home, as well as a win away from home included in those 3 wins. It's superb, and that's what's got us over the line at the end of the day. I enjoyed Celtic's performance. I thought the finishing was wasteful at times, yes, and I think plenty of people will be talking about that. But in terms of an actual a week decider, Celtic took the game on the way I wanted Celtic to take the game on, and they grabbed it from the get-go, I felt, and they looked like the team that meant business. And for that point of view, I was very encouraged. Yeah, the scoreline isn't, the one that we all were chasing and hoping for. I think that is, again, an embodiment of how this season's kind of been. At the end of the day, we got the job done. It's 6 points clear now. It's 9 goals, I think it is, clear in the goal difference. And to be honest, let's be, the league title surely now, beyond any sort of doubt, is going to remain the champions. But let's do all that good stuff very quickly. Obviously, we know there's a million post-match shows going on in Celtic Podland, so any likes, any shares you can do, they are much appreciated. We really do want to get as many on the bus as we possibly can, and we appreciate that there's loads of other content that you might prefer watching. But the more folk who know we're on, the more chance that the bus gets busier and busier. And who doesn't want to hear Terry Robb on a league deciding day talk about his favourite team getting a win over their arch rivals? I certainly do, and I'm looking forward to it the day. Terry, right, it was a bit of a nerve shredder, and I get that. I don't mind that, though, in these derbies. I think these games, complacency being a thing, has now turned into a negative vibe. When you look back at it, we now go, no competition. They were a load of shite when we beat them then. We didn't feel that at that time, by the way. But now that's how history looks back. So this time around, I think we could say they're two sides. There's not all that much a difference, I think, in the quality of them both. And Celtic got the job done yet again against Rangers when it mattered. And today, of all the fixtures we played against them, it mattered the most.
Bhoycie, you and me need to enjoy this show because we do the post-match. We're the ones that are on here every time the results don't go the way. And it's you and me that's getting posted on Rangers platforms and everybody laughing at us and snipping us and taking quotes of things that we say and rants that we do and all that kind of thing. So that's
less of the we, Terry. Less of the we.
this one's today's for you and me. See, going into the game, a lot of Celtic fans were super confident, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't see where that came from, other than the manager's record in these games. But let's remember, the games that we've won this season, they've been nip and tuck. And even today, although today was emphatic in terms of the performance, it was nip and tuck in terms of the end result. And for the second time in a home game against Rangers this season, we've been hanging on, literally hanging on with an extra man, because it was the same thing at the turn of the year game when Balogun got sent off. So I was confident about today, but I wasn't expecting to see this.
You weren't sharing the confidence that you felt was sort of going across the fan base, Terry. Is that what you mean?
I didn't see what people had seen this season to think that we were going to go and blow them out of the water, because we haven't done it. We haven't blown very many teams out of the water. We've had a few matches where where we've gone a bit goal crazy against Aberdeen, Dundee, and I think maybe there was one against Hearts where we got 4, but there hasn't been those same performances where we've been blowing teams away like we've seen over the last couple of seasons. But we've got the job done just in a completely different way. That performance today was very, very good. It was far from perfect. The manager alluded to that in his own post-match press conference. I'm not going to sit here today and focus on any negatives, but there was aspects of that game which, again, just represented what we've seen certainly in the last couple of months. I mean,
do you agree with Loopy's summation then, Terry?
That game just
encapsulates the season, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just represents the whole season. So much promise, so much hope, so much anticipation. Lots of disappointing moments, lots of moments of jeopardy, lots of nerve shredding, but ultimately the same outcome where you get the job done and you get the league championship and you get that ticket into the Champions League next season. So it wasn't the way we would have hoped, but I tell you what, and I said this to Phil last week, the way they've done it this year has just the jeopardy involved has just made it all the more exciting. I mean, we're used to sitting here in February and the rest of the season is just going through the motions because the league's been won early. And, in a roundabout way, the fact that we've not been firing on all cylinders has made it more exciting. I mean, I've been looking forward to every single game.
Yep.
You're looking forward to Dundee away. You're looking forward to St Mirren at home. You're looking forward to Livingston. Every game is carrying a bit of jeopardy because you just don't know what this team's going to do. You don't know what team's going to turn up. You don't know whether they're going to turn up for the first half or the second half. I suppose today, I thought the first half we were absolutely excellent until we went 2 up. I thought we were excellent today, really excellent. We could have that game done by half time. Then we let them into it, which is really frustrating. Then a moment of madness from Lundstrom. Effectively at that point, he just hands the title to Celtic, which Rangers supporters will probably blame Willie Collum for that. Willie Collum just did what any referee has to do in the modern game. Lundstrom made it easy. Lundstrom's the guy that is to blame. If any Rangers fans think Willie Collum influenced that game, they need to have a look at their own squad and their own player. I mean, those players, to give Rangers a little bit of credit, they hung in there, and the fact that they were still firing balls into our box in the last 5 minutes with a chance of getting a draw, with a chance of keeping the title alive, they'll be very disappointed in an experienced player letting them down like that, because you don't know how that second half could have played out. We've never played 2 good halves in a row all season, basically, and he's just handed the title to Celtic in that moment of madness. So there's nothing. That wasn't a Willie Collum moment. That was actually Stephen McLean, who's got Rangers allegiances. He's said, Willie, I don't think you've been stern enough with your punishment with the yellow. I think you need to look at this again. There's just something about the way it's all come around. It's Brendan's had so much stick, the squad have had so much stick, and we're sitting here and we're on 3 in a row. And I think the comment was it Loopy? You said made that comment. I think
it was Loopy who said it, and I had actually said it during the game.
It's very, very apt. It's exactly everything. And throw in the missed penalty, Bhoycie. I think that just tops it off. The missed penalty just. If we'd scored all those penalties we missed, we would have had this season done in February or January. I mean, that's a rally off them now as well. Nobody can take a bloody penalty.
I know. No wonder now.
The last 2 hours, I'm a bit hoarse.
No, you sounded great, mate. No, I mean, Joe Hart's probably sitting there going, do you know what I mean, guys? Do you know what I mean? I've been saying all season I should have been the number 1 penalty taker. That's why I was in the top 5, because that's the best I could get, was a top 5 spot for Celtic to get the penalties. But really, Joe Hart should have been on them for match day 1, I think. But I've got a couple of interesting things to start off on a positive note, Terry. We're going to play a wee game. Celtic played Rangers in Brendan's first derby back in... Remember the absolute Dembele demolition, yes?
5, yeah.
Yeah. So that was 5-1 Celtic. Celtic Park, same ground. No competition back then. Stronger competition now. Brendan on fire then. Brendan passed it now. One of the games had 20 shots. The other one had 22 by Celtic. Which one? Which one?
We probably had more shots today.
So it's 22 today. Possession, which game did we have 67.5% possession? Which game did we have 57?
That'll be today as well, I'm sure.
Correct. 3 corners that day, 10 today for Celtic. It's funny, isn't it? You see, when you think about it, if we want to acknowledge, if you want to have the narrative that Brendan did it against fuck all competition last time around, that would mean we're acknowledging the opposition's better this time.
Yeah.
Well, Celtic won't win by similar scorelines against a shitty opposition than what they will have decent one. But when you look at those sort of numbers, just as a wee snapshot of numbers, you've got to say he is certainly trying to influence games, and his team is certainly doing the same things they were before. And all that was missing today was the O'Reilly free kick going in, or one of O'Reilly's other chances not going by the post, the penalty being scored, the Kyogo chance for point blank that goes either side by half a yard, it's a goal. And suddenly the gloss on the scoreline turns this into just exactly as compelling a demolition derby as the one before. And that is the one I'm referring to, I should say, in 2016, which I think we all thought, fucking hell, this is the coming of a new era. And I look at that today and I go, that's against a backdrop that's completely different now, but I think it's so important to look at these wee things and just go, scorelines can maybe fool you sometimes as well. And I do think it is as well, as we've touched on, just the nature of how it's been this year, that we're not going to, even when Celtic seem to have the glory in their sights, they don't seem to pile on from positions of strength, and when they face a wee bit of adversity, they can definitely put us watching it from a couch through the ringer, as much as they make fans in the stands go through the ringer, and as much as it looks like them themselves go through the ringer when there's a bit of adversity. I've got to be honest, I think that's traits of the team, but in terms of what we're doing against a stronger Rangers team, with I think a lesser Celtic team, we're certainly still having the same impacts in massive games against them, based on that wee snapshot there of 2 prime examples of big fixtures. Let's go back to the opening half an hour, because we've not scored, Terry, by half an hour. My worry was we hadn't capitalised on it by then. Naturally, you're going to give up the odd half chance, full chance to Rangers, and I thought, fucking hell, how have we not scored yet? With the domination we seem to have, the momentum that we've got, everything in our favour. Then we do get a goal because Matt O'Reilly decides to be more decisive than he was with his penalty. And I wish he'd followed his lead for his goal into taking his penalty. He's had a couple of shots, mate. He's just dragged wide. The free kick, beautifully taken, just curls wide. He has a shot from the edge of the area, same sort of swerver or curl on it, and it just drags it wide at the last minute. Then he gets his next chance, goes, right, same area I'm going for, but I'm rifling this one. Hits it with purpose, with vigour, and there it is in the back of the net. That goal, though, came at a point where I thought, fucking hell, this is maybe so far in the match the least point I've expected us to score in, but it was timely. That goal's then doubled within minutes, Terry. We double it within minutes, and you think now, okay, that's the floodgates open. It was a mad 5-minute spell, though, because Rangers then, again, with cross balls, just hanging about in a 6-yard box, mate. Hanging about in a 6-yard box. And what happens is, from a position where it looks like we might kick on here, and this could be one of the famous results, to being in a wee bit of a reality check suddenly kicks in. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. Sorry, I was just about to pour a drink there, but then you stopped.
Oh, you can pour a drink while you talk.
No, I'm all right. I get what you're saying, Bhoycie. I don't know about you, but see when these games are 0-0, I'm quite calm. See, once we go ahead, I start to get more nervous, because then I'm thinking, now we're in a position of ascendancy and we've got something to lose in this game. So I was quite calm. I was quite passive for that first half hour. I thought we really, really did set the tone in the first few minutes. I thought we got the ball out to Forrest within the first minute, and we almost took the lead in the first minute, because I remember I says to my dad, I says, imagine we get as good a start as we got the last game with the Maeda goal in about 2 seconds. But we almost scored. They almost scored an OG. I think it was Suter from Forrest Cross. And I thought Forrest was excellent today. I thought from the first minute.
Yeah, totally agree.
He done that same thing that he'd done that night that he scored the 2 goals. Whenever he came on, he'd a sighter straight away at the start of the game, and you're thinking, right, he's just setting the tone here. He's looking for his range. I thought every time he came inside, he beat his man. Every time he went outside, he beat his man. The only one criticism I've got for Forrest is in that movement where Rangers scored their goal. Where is James Forrest whenever Barisic makes the run from left back and overlaps? Where's James Forrest? He's 20 yards off Barisic. To me, he should be matching that run. But I'm not gonna be critical on a day when we've beat our biggest rivals and won the title. But I thought going forward, I thought he was swashbuckling. I thought it was.
I think there's levels, Terry, with his decision making. He passes when he needs to pass, and they're good. Like they're passes
that comes with experience. So if you look at Forrest of 10 years ago, he was probably a lot more wasteful. Where he's learned from playing the game as a professional at the top level for such a long period of time. But I'd say if you go back to when James first came into the Celtic team, he had absolutely blistering pace, but he was maybe more wasteful with his opportunities. He was maybe more wasteful with his final ball. But myself and Phil talked about the team lineup last week, and we named that team that started today. That wasn't very difficult. You didn't need Mystic Meg to do that. Lots of Celtic fans were saying that was the team. The damning indictment about that team today was that none of our 9 signings from last year were in that starting lineup, and we were reverting back to James Forrest. But that was the team for today. I thought the two wide men were absolutely superb. And you would talk to me
then about that. There's two sides. As me and Mark spoke on Thursday, Terry. I'm not trying to interrupt you in a bad way. It's just because.
Well, listen. One of the passengers messaged me today, and he says if Bhoycie keeps interrupting you, he says I'm not going to watch the bus anymore.
Oh fucking hell! You've been doing us all a favour, mate. But I mean, you spout that much shite. It's hard to get the good bits fucking out unless I just jump in when you say something half useful, mate. But yeah, I think with the winger's point of view, two sides to this. Obviously, there's two sides, two wings. But James Forrest starting was important. Yes, I think when we do the summer shows at the end of the season, we'll certainly be going, that being the answer. I'm not quite sure how we arrived there in a run-in for a title if he wasn't looked at as the answer when points are still the same value throughout a season. If you're having to use him, that tells me he was the better option, the whole time. The Maeda one was interesting for me as well because we spoke on Thursday, me and the judge, about the mind games that Brendan seems to, I think, inadvertently found himself in at times. I think like the good girl comment turned into a sort of siege mentality for Celtic to jump on, which I think was a completely innocuous comment that had no reasoning behind it whatsoever to cause that. And then I look at the fun comment, and I think it came out differently than intended, but it certainly had the then inadvertent desired effect that we were hoping it would. Then if you look at Maeda's inclusion today, 3 weeks ago, Terry, we were told this guy's season was over. Now, that came from within the club, surely. That's where that said information has arrived, that he'll not play again. Now, no one, unless they're Marvin Andrews, who just prayed to God and got rid of a damaged cruciate ligament injury within a week, no one could suddenly go from season ending to back playing derbies that effectively within 2.5 weeks. And he was brilliant when he came on last week as well. Do you think there's maybe been a mind game played with Maeda out for the season? Because I don't know how they could get it that far wrong. This wasn't a guy, we've talked about other guys coming back from injury and you can tell that they're, right, he's not quite up. Maeda's not shown any sign of that. At what point did they actually believe he was going to miss this season? And has it been a mind game? Has he been a weapon that they've wanted to use as some sort of surprise? And they maybe had to use him last week earlier because the need is such. But I wonder if Maeda's been a bit of a mind game this season, not this season, in the last few weeks with that injury thing, and it was a bit of a squirrel, as they call it, that was thrown out.
Genuinely, I don't think so, Bhoycie. I don't think so.
But then they were miles off it, though, were they not? In the synopsis.
Yeah, but maybe he's just a different physical specimen to anybody they've ever seen before. I think
they would know that though, because they work with him for years. They would know that already because they deal with him on a daily basis.
Nah, I just don't see Rodgers being arsed playing and trying to play a mind game. And I don't see him being bothered in that way. And I mean, at the end of the day, let's it's Maeda, it's not as if it's Lionel Messi. Do you know what I mean? It's
this fixture though, mate. He is a hoodoo for them.
I think, yeah.
He's got the jinx on them, mate. Come on.
I know. I think let's go back to the comment where today was a microcosm of the whole season. I thought the second goal was just it just represented what Maeda gives you. The first touch, you don't know whether he's going to control it or knock it into Rose Ed. He controls it. Excellent first touch. He does Tavernier on the outside. Then he completely sclaffs his cross, but it still ends up being a goal for Celtic, and that just represents what he gives you. He gives you the good, the bad, and the ugly, all within about 5 seconds. I do get he's been a massive influence in this fixture, but you're not dealing with Lionel Messi here. At the end of the day, I do think it's been massive for us that he has come back. I mean, if you're going into that game, I know Kuhn had played a few games, but if you're going into that game, Kuhn gave the ball away a few times in the last 10 minutes, and all you're thinking is just keep possession here, just go into the corner, just keep, pass it to a green and white shirt. If you're getting into that game today with maybe Kuhn or Palma or Yanning or God forbid anybody else that we've signed on the wide areas, then you could be looking at a totally different outcome.
Well, but then I think Terry, say for example today goes the other way, right? Say it goes and we get not just beaten, but beaten with a bit of conviction. I know it was unlikely, but let's just say we did. We could then be sitting here on P.M.P going, we've rushed a guy back from injury if we believe that injury was that long. And we're relying on James Forrest, who he's not counted on all season and we thought was done at Celtic and nearly left in January. That should be fit to start today, Terry, So I just wonder, I think the Maeda one, I think he's got the jinx or whatever you want to call it on this fixture right now. He's just going through a wee purple patch in this fixture where he creates doubt in the opposition. I think there was no point he was never going to be back this season. I don't think they could ever have surmised that. Otherwise, they're miles off it in terms of their analysis of what injuries are and knowing the individual involved that they're checking this on. And looking at his performances, when he came off the bench against Hearts, there was no he's easing his cell back in it, is he? No, he was the opposite of that. Today he was fantastic. He's a massive part of this fixture. And you're right. He does the cutback for that goal. No one near Lundstrom. He sort of, best pass he played all day. And he puts it right in the bottom corner.
I don't know no idea what he's doing.
I had a funny moment, though, because it zoomed right in on his face as he's walking away after the ball's in the net. Honestly, I looked at him and I thought, that guy looks right now like he would rather be anywhere else than here today. So I tweeted it 9 minutes later, Terry. I was like, tell you.
He's off. He's gone. Here, Bhoycie, I think, not to dwell on Rangers matters, but he still hasn't signed a new deal. He'll come in for a serious heat after that game today. He's probably done with them. That's
there's only so much of this you can take as well.
Yeah.
I think 3-4 years.
I just don't know I have no idea what he was trying to do. It ends up in the net, and it wasn't. It wasn't a great opportunity for us because Maeda's completely sclaffed his cross. I just don't know what Lundstrom was trying to do. I can't fathom. Was he trying to put it out for a corner? What was he even trying to do?
I don't think he knows either, and I think that's what it looked like. It told in his face just then.
It's Friday's head, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think when he walked through, you could just see him looking out going, I don't want to do this. And I think 3-4 years of this sort of thing, you take that COVID season out it, and you look at the amount of Rangers players that have seen this sort of movie before where they go, even when something like a ball comes across, all I've done is a standing leg, and yet it goes right in the bottom corner. They must feel a wee bit at times this is just not good for me, doing this any longer. I think Lundstrom struck me as a guy who didn't want to be there anymore. But the weird thing is, Rangers get that goal, which I thought we defended very poorly again. And we could chew the bones off that if you want. I'm not really up for it today. I think it's, again, another example of things we've seen many a time this season.
It's the ball into the left-back area.
Yeah. But do you know what? See a team that's really got belief this title is still up for grabs. That goal gives you such a lift, Terry, that then it's like, fucking hell. Right, let's keep going. Let's use the momentum. his energy levels seem to change from desperation, despair, into, as you say, a fried mindset. Where you look where that ball is, where he actually goes to do the sliding tackle. If you forget the challenge in itself, why? What was the best he could do by going into that impact? The best he could win is a throw-in for Rangers up the park. That was all. That is the reward for that tackle. See, he had timed it right. So see, by making that decision, thinking that was worth that risk, that tells you, as you rightfully point out, the mind's fried, that the head's gone. And I wonder in situations like that, that's where you see the difference between a team who really believes, and maybe have the experience, as you rightfully point out, in a number of the Celtic first team now, of getting over the line, and one that maybe a few of them have, but they know the year they did it. They know the season they did it. And they know under these circumstances, with these sort of environments and atmospheres, they never actually have. And that showed to me, for a guy who's, 30, 31? That's as naive a movement a player could have made to run in at that pace and make that sliding tackle. For what reward? It would be best if he wins the ball, a throw-in for Rangers up the park. You've just got back into the game. So that tells me he's not recovered from his own goal. He's not focused on the team environment where they've just got back into the game. He looks like a guy who's still emotionally not straightened out from the mistake he's already made. And that tells you that's a side that, if that's got aspects like that in it, when it comes to the big time, Terry, they'll struggle always and always will.
All of that, Bhoycie, that you've described there, it probably took you longer to describe it than what it actually took for it all to happen, because he scores that OG, then from the restart, Rangers score within 40 seconds. Then from the restart, Lundstrom is sent off within a few seconds as well. So let's break it down and deal with it in two parts. The Rangers goal, I think, just represents our defending the entire season. Teams target that left side with a high ball, and I think what Rangers did today in terms of their lineup, I think they went essentially with two fullbacks on the right hand side, and they went with Tavernier obviously at right back and then Sterling ahead of him. I think part of that was to try and combat the perceived threat of Maeda, but I think the other side of that was Sterling is a much bigger unit than Greg Taylor, and you could see they were trying that same avenue that Aberdeen had success with, that other teams have had success with, where they're just firing a long high ball to our back post, and the Rangers player wins the first header. And equally as disappointing for me, there's three Celtic players standing around Dessers, and there's no attempt made. Joe Hart again, probably nothing he could do, but it winds me back till about 3, 4, 5 months ago, where there was a period where balls were just flying into our net, and he's just standing there and he's like not making any attempt at all to try and save them. And I was saying last week, Phil, from he handed in his notice, he has been absolutely superb.
I agree.
Probably his best spell, no mistakes other than the penalty miss, which was given. But he's been pretty flawless. But that moment again today just made me think of all them goals, all them times where you and me were sitting here maybe on a Wednesday night after a Champions League game and we've conceded a barrel load and he hasn't attempted to save any of them. And I'm just thinking, right, the ball to the back post, it's so obvious we've lost it. But that second phase, we haven't even put a challenge in. And the goalkeeper, again, I'm probably being harsh on him, but he's just sort of stood there and let it go into the net. The Rangers had a chance, Bhoycie, in that period where I thought we were really, really dominant. Do you remember the Silva header at the back post?
He goes on one knee. He goes on one knee and tries to angle it for a corner that doesn't exist.
He's got to score that. The only reason he doesn't score that is because he's afraid. He's going in there.
I think he's relying on. He wants contact, mate.
Oh, of course he wants contact.
He's waiting on contact. That's why he's staying stationary to do the header, right? Because he goes, if there's a nudge, it'll be really obvious because I will actually, not even deliberately, I will go forward. But really, see that ball there? That's one that you actually dive at. You put your whole weight into. It doesn't matter what the goalie does; it goes in. You know,
do you think you could see in Johnson's performance that he was just wary of diving in or giving him an opportunity to try and make something happen?
I thought he caused him problems.
He was quite good.
I felt that Johnston actually maybe he knows better than anyone. We played against him. I think there's a bit of respect there to the opposition he's against. I think he thinks this guy's got answers to quite a lot of those situations that come his way. And I thought he was maybe given a bit too much respect. But Johnson also, you need to remember these wee things that stick in your mind, Terry. He knows he's been at the focal point of VAR decisions, things like this, giving away the penalty the last time, the handball last season. Or was that the start of this season? Can't remember. But Johnston, these things will just niggle away in your mind a wee bit as well, make you that bit more tentative. But I also think there was an element of respecting the guy he was up against, I thought. But you're right. Was he as direct and as dominant as we would like to see him in the fixture? Probably not. I think there's a multitude of reasons for that right. being the case.
Back to the red. Any doubts?
For me, no. When I watched it in real time, the only thing I thought was he's got the ball. If he's got the ball, but actually, if you look at it, it's not just the still. And we've talked about the stills being misleading. You then see it from the different angle, and you go, right, okay, he's definitely just got the Johnston's leg, but not just that. If you actually watch his leg movement, it's straight, right, when he goes into Johnston. But then he's also given it a wee bit of a kick, not a kick after, but the follow through is very deliberate. Now, see, once you realise you make contact with the leg, your reaction initially will be you'll see it sort of pull out a bit. He doesn't give a fuck, mate. It's reckless. It is too much force. It is a type of tackle we would have got away with 20 years ago and seen on either side. Let's not kid ourselves on, though. It is 20 years ago. In 2024, he knows the environment and the space that he plays football in right now. He knows what VAR is. He knows what the rules are. The same way we all do. We can't hark back to the old days and expect those rules to be applied as and when it suits us. That is as red a card as you will see any day of the week, compounded by the fact Kenny Miller says, by the letter of the law, it's a red, but I don't think it's a red for me.
Okay. Well, my take on it is, right, seen it first time, I thought he's got the ball and he's followed through. So I thought in today's game, I loved football 20 years ago.
Well, we're watching today's game, mate. We're watching today's game. So it's all we can comment on, really.
I know it's today's game, and I got a message from a Rangers supporting friend of mine at halftime just saying, did you think it's a red? And my response to him is the same response that I'll give now. I preferred the game when that wasn't a red. I preferred the game when that was a yellow and whenever football was a contact sport. But football is not a contact sport anymore. Football is getting more sanitized and getting close to basketball. In today's game, that is an absolute clear red. I thought he probably got some part of the ball and followed through. I also think Johnston, whilst he took a sore one, I think Johnston was quite clever. I think Johnston has, in a split second, Johnston has positioned himself where he knows
what's to take coming. A sore one like that, then fair enough. Fair enough then. That's not being that. There's nothing, mate, that's being cute about planting your foot, mate, and when you're in position.
The opposition gets reduced to 10, you win the title.
I'm
just saying a small element, boys. Don't focus on it. I think a small element. Alistair Johnston has positioned his. Lundstrom's already committed. Johnston knows what's going to happen here, and I think he's thought. Well, he probably hasn't thought because it's all happened too quick. But he's positioned himself where the contact is definitely going to happen, and once that contact happens, that's going to be a red. Now it is a red, and this isn't simulation. This isn't Alistair Johnston making that. I just think he's positioned himself in the right way, or I could be totally wrong, and it's just a reckless, vicious challenge from an out of control John Lundstrom, who is still.
Well, they're separate things. Do you think it was an in control challenge?
No, I don't. I think he
look at the area of the park it is. That's what gets me the most. This is what I like to look at. I go, see, when you think about what the reward was to make that type of challenge, where he is
throwing it best.
You're going, no way is that a guy that's then in control, because that reward doesn't warrant that risk. Do you get what I mean? So that then tells you he's reckless.
The thing is, Bhoycie, once you see the first replay, right? Once you see the first replay, I just said he's off. He's gone. There's no debate. Once you see the replay, he's gone. And that is today's game, and he is off. And as I said at the start, Rangers fans will probably say Willie Cullum got John Lundstrom sent off. John Lundstrom got John Lundstrom sent off. John Lundstrom's head was fried. John Lundstrom has let his club down, his teammates down. John Lundstrom's handed the title to Celtic.
I couldn't agree more, Terry. I think you're looking at a guy there who's not looking at the bigger picture. Rangers had got themselves back into the game. They'd actually got themselves back into the game at that point. And probably, fortunately for their point, they're going, I can't believe this is at 2-1, and we maybe slightly in the sense. And that's why I go, that tells you everything you need to know. The area of the park, the situation of the game at that time, it is a guy reckless, mate. And it is a red card, by the way. It's no two ways about it. And Johnson took a solo one.
Bhoycie, that's been something waiting to happen since John Lundstrom signed for Rangers. If you think,
I agree.
I think what's he been there 3 years now? Maybe I don't know. Whatever. I'll guess 3 years. That's been waiting to happen all through that time. He's been bubbling over in these games, and there's been games before when he probably should have been sent off and he was allowed to get away with things. And you know that he's probably felt, you know, I've been able to wield my authority in these games and able to get away with things, and it just caught up on him today. That red could have happened in his first 2 or 3 games against us, because he's been that kind of niggly kind of player where I thought when he first came up to Rangers, the season before when he played for Sheffield United in the Premiership, he scored loads of goals. He was playing in a more advanced position, and I thought he was going to be a real threat for them. But then he kind of just became this midfield enforcer who you know,
he's a bit of a fake. He's a bit of a fake, mate. He's not what he's getting dressed up to be. I think he's got the.
I think he's not a bad footballer. I genuinely think he's not a bad footballer, but he's not the player I was expecting. I was expecting, after him having a really high-scoring season in the English Premiership, I thought he might come up here and be an attacking kind of midfielder.
He's kind of now just got the scrunchy face syndrome that Andy Halliday had.
That was just his.
Kind of got that face, you know, that face where it just goes all scrunched up.
But I think that was waiting to happen. I think that's an accident waiting to happen for 3 years, to be honest, the way he's played in these games.
Well, hey-ho, it worked in our favour. It was half-time right after that. Second half starts, and to be honest, we started the way I wanted us to. And that was, let's press home now the point. Let's make sure we get that 2-goal cushion back, and let's, you know, correct the wee error that happened. We get the penalty. Let's talk about the penalty, and let's talk about the decision-making process in it. Now, I'll be honest, I think the contact is minimal, but contact means it's a penalty. Willie Collum has not made a clear and obvious error. He has seen the contact. He probably thinks, fucking hell, Matt, do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to go down like that. I've seen the contact. But that doesn't change what the right decision is. You've got that it's a penalty. But players are coached now, Terry. You feel contact, you go down. Let's not think this is a refereeing problem. This is what you're now coached at clubs. You feel contact the box, you have to go down so that it's noticed. So this is now how you're actually trained as a player to do these things. O'Reilly does it, and he does over theatrical, obviously, for the minimal contact. But the contact made is the reason it's a penalty, not how Matt O'Reilly falls to the ground. They have decided to ramp up the pressure on that penalty being taken. Because, see, you talk about personality traits in people. Willie Collum, they would have known deep down. They've worked with him for years. He won't back down on that decision, right? He'll know that's a penalty. But what they've done is drag it and drag it and drag it out. And that makes taking that penalty harder. I know Celtic missed penalties left, right, and centre, by the way. But let's not kid on. That is all utter bollocks that's happened in that 5-minute spell. That is never going to be reversed. Never going to be reversed unless it's someone hanging on hope. You've given me an out here. But Willie Collins not going to referee like that. He's going to go, what the fuck have I been... Like, the reason I gave the penalty is the contact, not the way he fell. What is it you're trying to show me that I didn't see initially? That's not how VAR's meant to work. And it's meant to be clear and obvious. There was nothing clear and obvious about that maybe getting checked. I don't understand it. And then, of course, the cleverness comes out in the commentary by Kenny Miller, who I thought today really does need to take his Rangers top off. I don't know if Sutton was noising him off camera, but he actually seemed like you could feel like veins popping in his head when he was talking. Like, he's not in control of what he's even saying right now. His tone of voice was going high-pitched. The decibels are raising left, right, and centre. And he's like, are they maybe saying that it's O'Reilly who's made the initial contact? And you're like, oh my God. Now what they're doing though is trying to relate it to the Lagerbielka Dessers one. That's what that's about, right? And I'm sitting going, there is no way this decision gets changed. The 5 minutes delay in it, Terry, had an effect. I don't want to say desired effect and put the tinfoil hat on, but it had an effect on then whoever it is taking that penalty, because see when you've got the ball under your arm for that long, come on. Doubt is going to... It's known, Terry, when there's delays in taking the penalty.
Build up, Bhoycie. The nervous tension builds up, and I suppose I'll take you back to your comment when we were talking about it's not the game of 20 years ago. This modern game is, when a penalty's given, you're going to have to stand there and wait for somebody to look at it. But that
wasn't a reason. There wasn't. Yeah, which I hear you, by the way, because the decisions when it's a penalty will always be referred to VAR. Fact.
Yeah, that's where
however,
that's going to allow the what I would like, boys.
That one didn't require that length of time, Terry.
I would like stats guys to. There's more penalties being given than ever before. What I would like the stats guys, and I'm sure somebody will pull it out somewhere, is because of the extra time where VAR is looking at whether it is a penalty or not a penalty, what is the percentage difference in penalties being scored against penalties being given? That's probably one for somebody to dig out and enlighten me, because every single penalty decision is now going to be reviewed, which means there's going to be an elongated period.
Not as long as that, though. Did you think?
Where that player has got the ball in his hand and he's got too much time in his hands to think about what he's going to do with it. My thoughts on the penalty, right? And I'll be totally honest and genuine here, because I think it's the only way. When I see it live, full speed, it's a penalty. And it is a penalty. Technically, it is a penalty kick. It's soft. It's on the soft side, but technically it's a penalty. So that's not in question. Willie has seen it. He probably thinks it's soft, but technically it's a penalty and he has to give it. Michael Stewart, who... I actually like Michael Stewart, and I agree with a lot of his views. I think he's probably one of the most sensible people within Scottish football. I do. I like Michael Stewart. I have to say that. I think Michael Stewart's views are quite sensible. Now, I disagreed with him on Lundstrom. He thought Lundstrom was a yellow. Lundstrom's a red all day long. But
it's a Michael Stewart tackle.
No, I don't mind Michael Stewart. I think he's okay. But the question, or the point that he made around this penalty was, the problem that we've got here, and he means in Scottish football, is that VAR felt it was necessary to call Willie over to look at this whenever Willie has seen it, and Willie's not going to change his mind, as you said, because Willie's...
And it took them 5 minutes to arrive, though, Terry, the decision to actually invite Willie to look at it. Yeah. Now, see, to me, if there's that doubt, what they should do is go, okay, we're not sure. Let's get Willie over to look at it and he can have the final call, as it's meant to be, because we're not sure it's clear and obvious either. It's one or the other, penalty or no penalty, right? Now you've got involved. You can't take 5 minutes to go, I think now after 5 minutes we've got a reason for the referee then to make a second decision on the one he's already made. That's crazy to me, like crazy to me.
My main concern today around the officials was McLean on VAR. And my take on this is, right, I think that was the last hurrah. That was the last chance for anyone to try and save Rangers' season. And it was kind of like, fuck it, I'm going to take a punt here. I don't think Willie will change his mind, but fuck it, if I don't do this, the league's gone. That's what I think. I hear
you. I think that's fair, by the way. I'm
not one of these complete conspiracy... Every referee's against us and all that kind of pish. But Stephen McLean...
But you're basing it on evidence. You're basing it on facts, and you're going...
a lot of allegiance to Rangers and a season ticket in previous years. And I think it's just one of those ones. He probably knows. He knows that there's only been 3 decisions in Scottish football VAR history where the referee has stuck to his guns, and Willie's been involved in at least 1 or maybe 2 of those. And he knows Willie's not going to change his mind, because even though it's soft, it is technically a penalty. Willie's got it right, and Willie ain't changing his mind. But it's, do you know what? I'm going to chance it, because if I don't, our season's gone. And the season was still gone. Even though we missed it. Which is just synonymous with how we've been on penalties this year.
Yeah, and I think that feeds into how the season's been. It was then, again, a case of glaring opportunities not taken at times, Terry. Even with the shuffling of the pack, I thought Ida at one point does all the hard work, and then the finish, he drags it.
Where are you at with that then, Bhoycie? Because I've seen there was only maybe a 20 minutes between the game finishing and you and me starting on here.
Yes.
And I've seen little bits on social media where, well, Ida's just shown us in that cameo why he doesn't deserve to be signed and all.
But I think if you're looking at long-term signings, mate, and you want to make them within 20 minutes of having watched the derby, which takes every single one of us through the ringer, I would say you're probably not quite at the best decision-making level.
He causes chaos and he makes things happen around him. Now, my genuine thoughts, my thoughts on the whole thing is I could be totally way off the mark here. I think Ida was a last day agent offer. I feel there's something happening with the Danish guy. I think there's maybe been some kind of agreement, and we've took a loan signing to try and get us through to the end of the season, knowing that the Danish guy signing. I could be miles off. I could be talking.
Yeah, you could be.
I think something might be happening there, but I still would want another one.
Me too, which I've said the whole time. But see if we take the Danish thing out the equation of what you've just said there, Terry, and we got a guy that was available, maybe put to us, but you fucker, right? We'll deal with that. He's came in and definitely done whatever that task was between now and the end of the season. That was to make impact, score goals, give competition for first team places, be a readily available sub that I can trust when I need to take Hugo off if his effectiveness is not as much as we're hoping. And clearly that means the faith in someone like who's now way off the radar now.
He's gone.
Tells you that was a necessary signing. I wonder with either one that we jump to conclusions too quickly after stressful situations. Like today is not a game you could watch after that, and 20 minutes after, 5 minutes after, be going, do you know what? I've now got my assumptions made, and I've broke it all down, and it's a year and a on the loan signing being permanent. No. We're not there, are we?
It's just a modern world that we live in. Bhoycie, if he takes a shot and he scores, I'd pay 10 million. I don't care how much it is. I'll pay 10 million. I'd take it for 10 million. If there's another shot and he misses, he's shite. I wouldn't sign him.
I'd be the same person, mate, saying that. Totally agree. But we did get through it, Terry. Let's talk about, obviously, the situation. What's that?
By hook or by crook, we got through it.
Hook or by crook. It was interesting watching the manager pre-game. He did this sort of like the in-depth interview that Sky put on. I don't know if you've seen it or not. And Rodgers was pretty good, right? But it was quite a few things he said. I thought, fucking hell, fair enough. And he's got to defend his corner, of course. Of course he's got to. And he says, when you're a manager, he says, management isn't a magic carpet ride. It maybe was the first time I was here. He says, but in actual fact, I left here for 4 years. When I came back, I'd won an FA Cup, a Charity Shield, and 3 of Leicester's 4 highest finishes in history. I.e., the season they didn't win the league being the highest is the season they won the Premiership being the anomaly. That's when, right? Take that out of the equation. 3 finishes he did with Leicester were the 3 highest ever in the EPL. He says, I came back a more decorated manager, and yet from the moment I came back, he goes, I was surprised because it felt like actually now I'm not. He says, I'm an amateur now. I'm a novice. He goes, I found that very interesting. He says, what you're now seeing this time around is how management works. And I'm having to now manage certain situations maybe I wasn't having to do, in the first spell. I think in the last few months, mate, he has done an awfully good job. And I do think there's an argument to make. If this Celtic squad is being strengthened as badly as what you've just referred to earlier, 9 signings and not one of them played today. Is that what you said?
We made 9 signings last summer. Well, I think technically Iwata might have been one of those 9. I might be wrong on that.
No, he's not. No, because no.
Well, even if Iwata was one of those, he didn't start the game, and
he joined in January. Really,
if he didn't, then there was still 8. But none of the guys we signed last summer who weren't already with the club were on the pitch at the start of that game. And let's look at it. Let's be honest. Scales shouldn't be a first team regular. Greg Taylor, I often think Big Liam is harsh on Greg Taylor, but see today, whatever Big Liam says, I'm backing him. I thought Greg Taylor was almost 10 against 10. I thought Greg Taylor was terrible today, and I quite like Greg Taylor, but that needs an upgrade.
Is there an argument now? Is there an argument, Terry? But the point I was trying to make very quickly was, what other manager then, if they get basically given 9 players they don't rate, right, or maybe aren't actually good enough to improve your first team, then gets Celtic over the line? And I think that's where you've got to give kudos to the manager, because you're going, well, maybe it was his fault, by the way, as well, with the recruitment thing, and he didn't get his word across. I don't give him a complete free pass on it. But notwithstanding that, when you've got a team of players that have been strengthened in inverted commas and actually haven't at all, 9 of your summer signings don't feature in the biggest game of the season, who else actually does navigate these games and wins them? Who does get there? And I think that bit of it definitely deserves to be commended, respected, and you go, maybe he has been at times the difference between if we'd went for someone in a space where they're inexperienced, like a Maresca. He'd only done 13 games at Parma. I know he won the league with Leicester, by the way, fair dues. Yeah, but in this, if he's obviously clearly got guys that he probably wanted as well, in his recruitment. If you give him 9 players he doesn't know and he doesn't actually rate when it comes to the crunch, does he win these games of such magnitude by not having the newer tools to have used in his first season? I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I also think it makes it less likely. And I think that you've got to go fair dues to Rodgers for the 3 wins and a draw against them with players you don't fancy being the ones that have been brought in against a backdrop of not even, I think, 2/3 of the fan base happy you're there, a strong third of the fan base not. I think he's done okay, to be honest with you. And yeah, kudos to him and kudos to the team, obviously, for getting the results. But I think he does deserve respect, Terry.
Absolutely. Would Maresca have got the job done this season? Possibly. He's done an excellent job with Leicester. Again, I wouldn't have watched their games, but on face value, they've won that league. Again, I haven't watched them, but you're just expecting them to be like a mini sort of Man City, where they take lots of risks in possession and stuff like that. That might not be how they play, but I'm expecting because he's. It's
amazing with the glowing terms he's spoken of, Terry Maresca. He finishes top of a championship they were favourites to win, and yet Rodgers is spoken about as a failure at Leicester with 3 of their 3 highest positions, other than the one random year they won the league under Ranieri, which is incredible. Their 3 highest positions ever in their history were all achieved by Rodgers, as well as an FA Cup. And yet Maresca we look at it going, see what I mean?
I think it's still an achievement, and I think Maresca probably is a genuine, decent manager. However, would Maresca have got the same points total out of the 4 Celtic Rangers games this season? The most likely answer to that is no. And in those games, say in a strange way, Bhoycie, they're probably the games where we trusted Celtic to get the job done the most because of the manager. Do you know what I mean? And in a strange way, it's the other games. It's the games at home against St Johnstone, the games at home against Motherwell. It's those games that have made this a title race. And is that on the manager or is that on the players? When it came to the big matches, we've got the job done. And I'm not convinced that's because of the players, because we've got this squad that is still last year's squad minus a couple of first-team regulars. We've got 8 or 9, whatever it is, new players who have come in who didn't get the starting lineup today. The manager has got the job done in these particular matches, and that's been the thing that's got us over the line. Because if
superb,
say we were level points with Rangers over the Celtic Rangers games, we would lose this league because we haven't got the same points against the other teams as they have. And the manager has just carried on from where he was during that period of dominance when he was here the first time, when Rangers were crap. They were nowhere near the animal that they are now. I'm not saying they're pulling up trees, but they are definitely
They've got worse though as well with
what they were under that era.
Yeah, that Rangers team's got worse though with time, mate, as well, because it fits.
Which
that
one? The old one?
They've got around worse in people's minds than what they were at the time. Way worse, mate. Like
they were dreadful. I mean, they were just free transfers in every position.
Well, put it this way: 3 wins, 1 draw so far. If he wins the cup final, that'll be 4 wins, 1 draw against a stronger Rangers team, and that is a record that would match anything Postecoglou did in his rock and roll seasons at Celtic. In fact, did Postecoglou do an unbeaten season against them? Don't think so.
No, he didn't. He didn't, because in season 1 he lost the first one, and season 2 he lost the last one. But here's the thing, Bhoycie, just very quickly, when it's in my head, see the dominance. That's the 4 league games done this season, and we haven't lost one. Yeah. Now the Scottish Cup, it could go either way. I'll be totally honest with you. If you'd said to me this morning, Celtic win the league, Rangers win the 2 cups, would you take it? I would. And don't get me wrong, when cup final day comes round, that'll be the most important match in the world ever. But the league was the big one. The league was huge this season. If we win the cup, absolutely brilliant. I think we will. But if we don't, do you know what? The main one was won. But I'll tell you what, I think the way we've performed against them and the results we've got against them in the 4 league games this season, I think that has got far-reaching consequences going into the new season. And I know it's brand new next year, and it'll be, I expect it'll be the same 2 managers. It'll probably be mostly the same squads with a few additions. But the longer these runs keep going, and I mean, look back through Celtic's history, and I'm old enough to have been on long losing runs against Rangers and seasons where you didn't win games or get points against them. The longer this thing goes on, the longer Brendan's dominance goes on against them, the harder it is for them to break.
Sure. I mean, Terry, the Brendan one's interesting. What is it? Is that 14 now? 15 games, 14 wins?
It's a ridiculous record. It's probably the most successful Celtic manager.
The 1 draw he's had. It's 1 draw, 1 defeat. I think it's about 14, 15. Not just that, though. It was interesting before the game. I mean, I know that the lazy term, Anton Rogan's left foot says it's 17. So that'd be 15 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. I don't know if that's facts or not, but wow.
Loved Anton Rogan. Loved Anton Rogan. You're probably too young to remember him, do you?
I am, mate. I'm young as fuck, man.
He was a Belfast lad playing left back. Probably wasn't a first team regular. Very effective when he played.
He's now quantified the comment and put maybe. So there, I feel for that.
Definitely maybe.
One of the things as well that I was just about to say, stats wise, in terms of the loose term that gets used is anything can happen on Derby Day, Terry. Anything can happen.
And it can.
6 wins they've had at Celtic Park since 2000. 6 wins in 24 years. That equates to a win every 4 years. Now, you could argue that the year that they sort of struggled their way through the leagues, you could take that out. So what's that? They've won 6 in 20 years. So it's one win at Celtic Park every 3 and a bit years. Wow. That's not as much of a... Anything can happen in these games. It's not quite as random as you would think, because they're pretty dominant numbers that we're looking at and facts. Now, people don't want to get carried away because I don't know, they seem like it impacts the team somehow. Well, didn't get carried away. I'm like, I'm not playing tomorrow. It's like, I'm not allowed to get carried away. I can look at those numbers and go, see, to be honest with you, that's the sort of record you have against Dundee. That's the sort of record you have. Like, they win every 3-4 years, they'll sneak a result at Celtic Park. That's dominance, Terry. Since 2000. 6 wins they've had at Celtic Park. That's not an anything can happen fixture, surely.
Well, see, this current wave that we're on of Celtic dominance. This isn't normal. This is just the most amazing run that Celtic have been on, and it makes people feel entitled. You've people that will be disappointed this season because we haven't done another treble. This kind of stuff here. Do you want to hear something funny just when it's fresh in my head?
It can't be for you. It must be
No,
someone else.
it's during the match. It's during the match. It was quite funny, right? So there was a ball into the Celtic box, and there was shouts from the crowd of handball, handball. And I turned around to my dad and I says, "Them bastards shout for everything. They're shouting for everything." And there was no Rangers supporters in the stadium. Oh, there was Celtic supporters. It was the Rangers player handballed it, but I thought they were shouting for a handball in the box, and I just totally forgot there was no Rangers fans in the stadium, and I just was going, they're shouting for everything.
We talk about the fans thing, and I like to always be balanced on the bus. You know,
I think I know what you're going to say, and I am going to back
you know the quote, Terry. Let me get there.
Yeah,
the corner kick, mate.
Disgrace.
I think at times it has been far more weighed that Rangers fans do it, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. I think there's a myth though that we're all angels, and I think if we want to be as offended and upset and call out as strongly as we do whenever we feel our players have anything thrown at them, then we have to be equal in condemning when we see it from our own. Now, that happened today. End of story.
More than once.
How disappointing is it when you see that side of it? Because it doesn't fit the narrative that they're all animals and we're just there, having a great time, having a party, jelly and ice cream. That happened today. And it's not nice to see it. And as you rightfully say, there was no Rangers fans there, so let's not try and, what about it? It's us doing it. It's picked up 2 objects as Tavernier. And then even after the ref puts them off, you can see like a coin fly by the I'm about to take the corner again. That has to stop. Or the absolute victimhood of, I can't believe they've thrown things at our players. Stop being so faux pas shocked when it happens, when they do it, as if it's not something that this fixture grabs holds of people. It grabs their emotions. It's unpredictable. People do things they don't mean. They do it, they don't regret. But it feels like to me they're really sinister, and we brush over when it's happened to us. And I think it's only fair just to highlight it. I don't want to dwell on it, but to highlight it and acknowledge that ain't on.
No, I totally 1,000,000%. And Bhoycie, if you hadn't brought it up, I was going to bring it up. Celtic fans harp on about the glass in the penalty box at Ibrox. It doesn't matter if it's glass. It doesn't matter if it's a paper cup or a polystyrene Bovril cup or whatever it is, a plastic lighter. Nobody should be throwing stuff at a game of football. And no matter how much you hate Rangers or whatever, these lads they're just young lads doing their job, and it's an absolute disgrace. And I totally get right that, and see if this is the case, then fair enough, because there might be somebody who's sitting at home right now who threw an object onto the pitch today and he's gone, do you know what, I'm an absolute dickhead.
Who was that?
Because emotions take over. I've done things at matches. I've shouted things. I've sang things. I've said things, and it goes back to the whole Ali McCoist comment, which I had absolutely no problem with, around where he said for 90 minutes I'll be breaching that rule and all that. I totally get that because I've been at games, I've sang songs, I've said things that I totally don't mean. I've reflected on them later in the week and gone, I was an absolute dick. Why did I do that? If somebody's sitting now saying, right, I'm a total cock, that wasn't me, I just got totally caught up in it and I did something that's out of character, then do you know what, mate? I'm not going to stick the boot into you. But see, if you're somebody that goes along to games and just thinks it's all right to behave like that and throw stuff at somebody doing their job, then not for me. Not for me.
I just I like consistent views in life, Terry. And I like to say, if I'm not pissed off,
if that was the other way around and we'd lost a Celtic Rangers game and there were items thrown onto the park, we'd probably be latching onto that as some kind of moral victory or something.
It would have been a massive talking point, particularly if we'd lost, mate. Let's be real. And
it's not great. It's not great, Bhoycie.
You can't have it sinister on one side.
There's arseholes in both supports.
Yeah. If you see the same action done by a human being towards anyone else, the exact same action, let's call it for the same sinister levels, wrong levels as what we would the other one, regardless of what shut that fan is went, oh, no shut, as some of them were doing today.
There's actually one of the Rangers players that's on the pitch, Bhoycie. I told you this before, I know his dad, and do you know what I mean? Nobody deserves to get stuff thrown at them when they're doing their
No,
job.
I
No
don't.
matter how much you don't like them, no matter how much you don't like them. Do you know what I mean?
And I just wanted to flag it because I always believe in balance on the bus.
100%. It was on my list.
Good. Right. I want your thoughts now because I didn't. I was waiting patiently on you, mate. You listened to Brendan after the game. I'm guessing you were absorbing what he was saying because that's why we're a couple of minutes late, and that's all good because that's you doing all the research, all the homework, Terry. Talk to me about what his vibe was after the game and what your takeaways from it were.
I can't remember because I've had about 10 vodkas since you come on.
Oh, sound mate.
No, listen. It was just the usual pitch from the manager, saying all the right things. Really delighted that a lot of people across the world are happy this afternoon. We've made them happy. We made them work for it. We made them sweat. It should have been much easier. We were totally dominant. We should have got the job done. Credit to Rangers. They hung in there. They found a way to stay in the game to the last few minutes. And just a normal Brendan sort of politician answer, keeping everybody happy, keeping everybody sweet. There was no arrogance. There was no cockiness. There was nothing that can be put into the media this week as being a cock. It was just your standard Brendan. You know deep down he's absolutely bursting inside with happiness, but he's just keeping the whole thing sweet. That's all it was. But I wanted to hear it before we come on.
No, I respect that. I was just hoping there'd maybe been another wee nugget.
There was nothing of any substance nothing controversial, nothing snide. He's too clever for that. He's too respectful for that.
No, that's fair enough.
The job's not done. And McGregor was on as well, Bhoycie. And the narrative was the job's not done yet. We've still got to go and get over the line here.
Were you interested that he spoke about the fact that the Kilmarnock game already held importance because we're due them revenge? He spoke about that. He actually gave that away. He says, even more so now. But obviously, we want to, he said something, correct that or something like that. I find that interesting because I like that. I think that's a human side, mate. I want them to be, how the fuck, we've lost 2 out of 2 rugby park this season. No fucking way is that happening again. I think other folk find stuff like that petty. I don't. See, to me, that's being competitive in life. If someone's beat you twice, of course you want to make it it'll be a wee bit sweeter when you right that wrong. Of course it will. And I always like the fact that even in the midst of this sanitised post-match interview era we live in, it's not 20 years ago, Terry, this sanitised pish where we all go, we take it one game at a time. It could be Kilmarnock or Ross County. It doesn't matter to us. As long as we get that point, we win the league. Instead, he actually admits, well, no, the game has a wee bit of an edge already, because we know we've been beat there twice this year. I liked hearing that. I think that makes you normal. That means you are that's how competitiveness works in life. You get beat twice, you're going back there. Fuck that. Now it's got a wee bit extra meaning because we can win the league at Rugby Park. And Terry, you're of a vintage wee bit longer than mine, but not by much. Let's be real here. Rugby Park's been a happy hunting ground and a source of obviously the day Tomo skied that penalty. But that one aside, we've won a couple of titles at Rugby Park that I can remember pretty vividly. So let's make it another one.
I remember a Naka free kick. Bhoycie, I wish it was 20 years ago. If it was 20 years ago, I'd be sitting here with a full black beard. See all these white bits. I'm like Santa Claus sitting here.
I hope I can get the credit for a few of them.
No, listen, Celtic has got the credit for most of them, if I'm being honest with you. But I'm going to rewind 10, 15 minutes to the point that I made around the dominance that we've had in this fixture against Rangers this season. Here's the bit for me. This is the key bit. The problems we've had with Kilmarnock this season, that needs to be put to bed. Not for this season, because this season we're done today. We've won the league today. I'm looking ahead already to next season, and I am pretty sure Brendan Rodgers will be thinking, right, do you know what? We need to get this monkey off the back against Killie. We need to go out there and get a convincing result, because next season we want to be going to Rugby Park with a 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 victory, because that'll be in the memory when we go there next year. See if we go there on Wednesday night and falter. See, next season, that becomes a real monkey on the back again, that match. You're looking at that match, you're thinking ahead, right, that's a total banana skin.
That's a good point.
Last season. Let's think to you and me talking, Bhoycie. And I wanted to say this for loads of times in the last few weeks. Do you remember we were sitting here last year? The title was done February, right? and there were performances that were absolutely abject. And I was kicking off, and I was getting a lot of abuse in the chat. And what I was saying was, these games aren't just important for this season. These games set the tone for next season. And I felt we went into this season with that same lethargy that we had under Postecoglou from February onwards when the league was won.
Yes.
I just felt that, see if you create that environment and that culture where total 100% effort and 100% of your capability and productivity is, you'll accept less than that. That can carry over. Players can get it into their head that they're allowed to be lazy. That's okay. And see if there's new players coming in and they get the vibe, that there's a sort of lazy culture around here. That then spreads, and that just spreads across the whole squad. And I genuinely could be talking absolute mince, but I honestly think, see that lethargy from February onwards, where we had the job done and that team took the foot off the gas. I think that's what one of the problems was going into this season. Yep. The manager might have changed, but
I felt the performance levels, Terry.
You didn't have to go into your work every day and do your absolute best.
Well done.
See if that's not the culture, then that just starts to domino. And then if there's new people come in and they just get involved in that culture, before you know it, you've got a culture where people think they can just come in and go half-assed at their work every day. That's what I think was the problem at the start of this season.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the points I tried to make consistently when not defending what I was watching, but to bring balance, I said, see, when you look at the performance level, this was the first half of the season, particularly I was making this point. I said, it's not falling off as much as we're kidding on here. We're a massive fall off from the great days under Ange and what we like to remember from the Ange era. But in actual chronological order, the last few months of last season, the first few months of this season, Celtic weren't a million miles away from those performance levels. And if they had dropped, and I'm not saying they hadn't or they had, but say they hadn't dropped off a cliff. They had not, because it was already, as you rightfully say, in front of our eyes. And you're right. And the reason you've brought that up is because that does give the Kilmarnock game not just the importance of winning the league, but that absolute fucking monkey off the back of going, next year, we know how to beat you. Yes? So see when it is, the next time we come in, it'll probably be early on, probably in the first round of fixtures. We look forward to it. We're not going to be sitting there going, shit, Brendan's not beat them since
We've got to go there and blitz them. We've got to go and blitz them on Wednesday night. And
I like that,
not this season, for next season.
Yeah, but that's a great point you make there. It's a great point. Now, Martin Weir comes in, Terry. I know we're an hour and 15s, right? So
I don't care. I can stay on until the early hours of Tuesday morning.
Is that it? Martin Weir says it was good to see Henrik back too. I don't know if you see him shaking hands with Murdo McLeod and all that, who obviously had serious health issues and stuff.
He was sat beside during the match. He was sat beside him.
Yeah, he went up. See when he shakes his hand and hugs him and that. I mean, wow. I generally got goosebumps seeing it. I mean, he is like a Hollywood star we had that played for us, Terry. When you actually look at him, even now at 52, you just felt an aura about Henrik just walking into his seat at that time. You go, he really was the king of kings. And I'm so glad that the rare occasions you get to see Henrik attending a Celtic game, it was one of such magnitude, and it's one that we won. Brilliant, eh?
The thing about it is, Bhoycie, and this is what in my head sets Celtic apart, is people that come into the club who have absolutely no emotional attachment to the club, but end up loving the club for the rest of their lives. And that's what you see with Henrik Larsson, Chris Sutton, John Hartson, lots and lots of...
The rest of it are constantly still involved and intertwined with the club since then, which I like, by the way. That's not criticism. I love the fact Henrik's like the god of them all, and yet the most elusive. It's rarer that you see him at Celtic Park, or it's rarer you see him doing interviews. It's rarer you see him in the public eye. I see when you do, it's amazing. I think he's still got that aura, that star quality, mate, that you weren't making it up. We're not getting all over romantic when you look back at what he was. He's still got it now, that real pull about it, and you just go, fucking hell. Imagine him having something like that again.
If he was just a footballer who'd made his money and it was a business to him, he wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have been there today. Like Henrik Larsson didn't grow up supporting Celtic. None of those guys did. I know when a new player signs, he talks about how he watched Celtic back in his homeland and he had the kit and all that pish. None of that's true. But how many of these people who had no allegiance to the club then love the club and love the supporters and love everything about it for the rest of their lives? And I mean,
he doesn't dine out on it, though, Terry, does he? He doesn't dine out on it.
Huh?
He doesn't dine out on it. That's what I love about him.
He doesn't.
It's the fact that you do want to see him more and you don't. And I'm like, you big fucker. He's like it's like one of the Beatles coming in, mate, when he arrives. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is like that sort of level of.
Bhoycie, did you see it today? He danders past Rod Stewart and everybody's looking at Henrik. Nobody gives a fuck. It's Rod Stewart. The only part that Rod Stewart did was he allowed Henrik to walk past him to get to his seat. Do you know that kind of thing? Rod Stewart, worldwide superstar, has just let Larsson pass, but the focus is all on where's Henrik sitting.
It's so Rod Stewart. It's so Rod Stewart, to be fair.
But here, Bhoycie, the thing is, the ones that really look at Joe Hart, and I think Joe Hart will end up being the same as Sutton and Larsson and Thompson. And all those guys came up from the EPL, where it's regarded as the best league in the world. It's certainly the richest league in the world. And vast majority, 95% of people down in England think the Scottish game is just tin pot. But those guys come up, they embrace what the club's all about. And it's just no coincidence that so many of those guys end up loving the club and they're involved in stuff long after their playing days are over. I expect Joe Hart will have some kind of involvement in Celtic, be it. I don't know. I know that
he's been bitten though, hasn't he? Hart. Hart's been bitten by Celtic, hasn't he? You could tell he's definitely got it. Like he's an example again of
there'll be some kind of connection going forward in the future, whether he becomes involved in the media or I don't know if he'll go down the coaching route at Celtic or not, because I know that his family have been based down south while he's been playing up north for the last 3 years, and that's probably been a massive sacrifice for him and stuff. But you can totally see in this guy's face. And you're talking, Bhoycie, here, you're talking about a 75 cap England player. You're talking about a guy that has played for Manchester City. You're talking about a guy that's been involved in some of the biggest games in world football, and he's running about like a kid on Christmas morning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's just something that this club. And again, totally biased. Other clubs might feel they've got the same, but there is just something a wee bit special, which again makes you then think, why is their dickheads throwing lighters and all this pish? But anyway.
Yeah, I know. One last topic point that was off the field again. It was about the commentary today. I know I touched on it earlier about Kenny Miller, but there's been a lot of references to it in the live chat, even still just now, and that's been since we started. I think Sutton has got Rangers fans by the balls because he's very factually accurate in what he says, but he'll do it with that dig in it that means it hurts a wee bit more, and he does it that wee bit of that, that wee bit of bite, mate, and you go fuck, and he'll use phrases and the way he words things can hurt, but it all seems to be to me from a place of facts where it begins. Kenny Miller today sounded like he had totally strayed from. He's not normally that bad in terms of balance, right? He's not. I mean, we can dislike him for a million other reasons, right? In terms of his punditry, he's not someone I instantly associate with being of, terrible. I can't bear listening to him. Today, I thought the emotions really got the better of him. I thought listening to him, I thought it was tricky, particularly first half, in terms of if you're his paymaster. I think I was like, oh, Jesus, he's lost his head now. And I thought at times the occasion actually maybe just got the better of him today. And I thought some of the stuff he said, if we want to ridicule it, we can go down that road. But I actually thought it was something when you talk about heads being fried in terms of John Lundstrom. I think Kenny Miller was in no man's land, I think, at times in that first half in terms of what was coming out his mouth in terms of the control he actually had, because He didn't sound like a guy making any sort of rational judgments of what he's watching. He sounded like a supporter frustrated at what he was watching in front of him. Do you know what I mean? There's a big difference there.
So I probably look a wee bit deeper into this. If Kenny Miller is as staunch as he comes across, how did he make that decision to go and play for Celtic? And I said the same thing to my dad today. He was giving Miller loads, and I just turned around and said to him, I said, he gave us 100% when he played for us, and he wasn't everybody's cup of tea, Bhoycie. But Kenny Miller was the Dyson Maeda at that time. He was the guy that just pressed and closed down. And listen. There were great moments as well. There was a goal against Benfica. Do you know what I mean? But it's a very, very difficult one because he's gone from being a staunch Rangers player to a Celtic player, and then after that, a staunch Rangers player again, and then a staunch Rangers fan in the media.
He wasn't in control today, Terry, of where his leanings were. And I'm not saying it again like to be, I'm offended by it. It's not even like I'm offended by it. It's an observation where you go, there's letting you know whose side you're on and having a wee bit of, there's an, right, okay.
I'm all right with that, by the way.
I'm not saying it, and even then, I'm not saying I'm not all right with it, but it's definitely provided talking points because the live chat is full of Kenny Miller sort of vibes.
You know what? I'm all right with the referees. I'm all right with the referees making their allegiance known as well. I'm all right with David Dickinson being a Rangers fan. I'm okay with John Beaton being a Rangers fan. I'm okay with Stephen McLean being a Rangers fan, as long as they do their job properly. But then if you bring that into the punditry, I'm okay with Kenny Miller. I'm okay with Kenny Miller loving Rangers, but his role today was a pundit.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it again, it's not like I'm so offended by it. It was nothing like that. I just listened to it and thought, shit, I bet they wish he wasn't in that position. If you're his paymaster, as I say, you're going, holy fuck, he felt like Sutton at one point's laughing. You can hear him actually going like that, like the wee quiet laugh. And he's because he knows he's watching someone. I know the common term now is a meltdown, but it did sound a bit like he was going through that. I thought, wow, he's strayed from showing his allegiance, and that's why there's an ex-Celtic and ex-Rangers player in there, because they're going to give you it from as balanced as they can, but with that slight tint, and I've got no problem with that either. I thought he was beyond that, if I'm honest, watching it. I don't think he could help it.
But I thought when Boyd is balanced, you've dominated. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
when Boyd's telling you it's a red card, it's a penalty, and Celtic were by far the better team, you know you've had a good day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, apparently his post-match, that's what a lot of folk are saying now, is even better. So I think he's not back doing his double doing, Terry. But do you know what? It's not a double for Celtic.
Miller, you're talking about, or Boyd?
Yeah, Kenny Miller. Apparently he's... But I look forward to watching that. That's the beauty of these games. You win them, and then it's all the aftermath is always great. Paddy Power will do it.
It'll be going on all week now. Do you know what I mean? It'll be going on all week until Wednesday night, whenever hopefully the deal is sealed on Wednesday night. Worst case scenario, we can't break the hoodoo. Then we've got a game next week where we probably just have to keep the score down. Do you know what I mean? But the meltdown doesn't just happen at this stage of the season, Bhoycie. It doesn't just happen for a couple of days. That the tone's now been set for the entire summer. And the thing about the cup final is, and I said this to Phil last week, if we don't win the league, the cup final means absolutely nothing to me.
Oh, it's such a diluted cup win. It would have been
nothing to me. The cup final means nothing to me if we don't win the league. See now, when it comes round the cup final, yes, on that day, that will be the most important of the season. But in the grand scheme of things, if I've just made an offer this morning of Rangers win the cup final, you win the league.
Always.
I'm just a tip that, to be honest.
Always. But you're absolutely right, because as we approach cup final day, Terry, we will flip it into, this is the most important game. I've always said it was the cup final that was more important. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it goes. Terry, I've loved the loved hour and a half that we've had, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant. 224 on the bus. Remember, please do give us a wee like, give us a wee share, or whatever it is you want to do on the bus. Terry, lift that trophy, mate, because it's got to be now that is the case. Do-do-do-do. See you there.